Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Let's Learn StarCraft. We're doing our second look at core strategy in Zerg vs. Terran. We spent quite a while talking about the money slide, which I just completely closed because I'm really good at my job. But let's full screen it. Boom! I have my replay overlay up. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, no. Oh, God, I'm so good at my job. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, we spent a long time explaining why this was the look of the broad strokes in Zerg vs. Terran. Early game build-up. Part 2, Zerg tries to take a third, Terran tries to deny a third. Part 3, the mid-game, Zerg defends with Defiler, Terran pressures with Tank Vessel Bio. Stage 4, proper late game. And that all depends on whether Terran goes for mass Bio Vessel, or whether the Terran goes to this mass Mech switch. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that I'm trying to establish clarity as to that these are the phases. And we're going to look at a handful of games where we'll see some crazy variation. We'll see a lot of weirdness. But what I hope emerges is that you look at these games and you go, I see where this is going. Because if you're playing as Zerg or Terran on the ladder, you're going to lose games in weird ways, you're going to see strategies you've never seen before, and without a consistent underpinning and a consistent framework, it's very hard for you to even answer the question, what the hell just happened? Was that thing that he did any good? Was that an all-in? Was that a stable play? Let's look at it in the context of a game that we've already seen on this Let's Learn StarCraft. Both in the last episode, we took a few clips from this, but in the early Zerg vs. Terran analysis of Flash versus Shine, we looked at Jaedong versus Innovation as a very quick sample game, looking at how the Zerg vs. Terran matchup can flow. So this is going to be the most canonical, standard-ass game that I could find. This is the way that Zerg vs. Terran is actually being anchored towards. And what I mean by that is, oh yeah, we're going to see a barracks out of Terran. It's on the high ground. And then we're going to see an expansion coming up as his second building. If you're Terran, maybe you some games build the barracks right here in order to bunker rush. That doesn't change the fact that you are anchored back to getting your expansion. You're anchored back to getting more barracks to go bio. Same thing out of Zerg. We see that in this late early game, Zergs will get 3 hatcheries. Their first set of gas will be a layer. Their next set of gas will be Zergling speed. Boom, there it is. And this is phase 1 of that list that I presented. Phase 1 really is the build-up. Build-up, build-up, build-up. And the start of phase 2, the late early game as I like to call it, is about when this spire's halfway done. This is when Zerg is desperately trying to get himself a third base. So let's not confuse ourselves. Let's not get ourselves overly caught up in details. We'll absolutely do detail work of Zerg vs. Terran build order specifics and stuff like that when we're looking at openers, when we're looking at the more deep strategy. But here, why is he getting an academy and an engineering bay in this particular order, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter in this episode. Just note that we're about now entering into phase 2 where Zerg is desperately trying to hold on with Lings, Mutalisks, and eventually Lurkers in order to secure a third base. How can we understand this Ling counterattack? Because Zerg is desperately trying to delay, desperately trying to hold on in this phase of the game. So Terran tried to do a little pullback. Whoopsie daisies, that was a whiff. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You heard me say in the very first episode, it's unbelievably easy to lose this matchup. Well, I present to you Jaedong almost easily losing this game. Literally almost easily losing this game. He sends all his drones forward, trying to stay alive, but trying also not to lose all his drones. ridiculously easy to lose this game. Excuse me, ridiculously easy to lose in this matchup. Okay, still in Phase 2, still in late early game, we still see that Zerg is trying to get a whole bunch of Mutalisks, trying to get a whole bunch of drones, and trying to desperately stay alive. And we see that again in this Phase 2, in this late early game, Terran's still going mass bio, has to build a whole bunch of missile turrets in order to deflect these Mutalisks. Now you might ask yourself the question, but wait a minute, I thought Marines owned Mutalisks in a straight up fight. Absolutely. But Jaedong's never going to give those Marines a straight up fight. That's why these missile turrets need to be built, because the Mutalisks are much faster than the Zerglings, and Innovation will get hit at different angles and lose all of his shit. There's a scan down there by Terran, confirming that there is an expansion going down. Once again, lurkers getting built. Alright, I'm going to speed things up a bit. You heard me say that far more important than picking off SCVs was the picking off of as many Marines as possible. Jaedong finding split groups, picking off medics. Now, what's Phase 3 for Terran? Well, it's tanks and vessels and a whole bunch of barracks. Or tanks, vessels, and a whole bunch of barracks, soon transitioning into a whole bunch of factories. Great. We're still in the late early game, where it's Mutalisks and desperately lots of lurkers for Zerg, as Zerg tries to get to Defiler tech. And as we see, no hive yet. Just getting to mid-game in this matchup is hard. In fact, there will be an entire episode of Zerg vs. Terran just dedicated to getting to the mid-game as Zerg and trying to deal as much damage to the Zerg in the mid-game as Terran. So where are each of these players going? Well, Terran is going to build up to Vessel, Bio, Tank, Dropship, Attack, 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 Attack. That's what he's going to be doing. What's Zerg going to be building up to? Defilers, Scourge, Lurkers, Defense, 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 Defense. Still no Defiler Mound. There is an upgrade getting built at this Evolution Chamber. Jaedong's Mutiling still just holding on strong. I'm telling you, this is just the most canonical game ever. By the way, I'm so impressed at Jaedong's ability to find this timing. He's coming in here with 2 Scourge and his Mutalisks, trying to kill this vessel right as it pops out. He's off by about 15 seconds. He literally flies over here trying to time it. Literally 15 seconds off. He gets a few SCVs, but you don't have to be that good. We are not looking at detailed analysis right now. This is just broad strokes, simple shit. So you saw me present some clips of 3 tanks, about 24 Marines, and 4 medics. Here we have 6 medics. This looks like 22, 24-ish. And 3 tanks, and a vessel. So, it is almost as though Day 9 created clips to align with the games he was going to show. Day 9! He's so sick! Oh my god! Zerg could burrow and pull back and burrow and pull back, all while trying to delay as much as possible for this Defiler Mound to finish. But Jaedong just smells blood in the water, and does one of the other possibilities that we saw. He burrows right in the middle of all this, and just gets a beautiful angle, and Innovation mismicros slightly. Leapfrogging lurkers, cool. And the Mutalisks are all dead now. Ain't no more mutas for Mr. Dong. So we see, part of the reason why I say that lurkers are not good attacking units is because you'll get addicted to moments like this in Zerg vs. Terran, and you'll just be like, oh my god, lurkers are the greatest units ever, I'm gonna mass lurkers every day and night. And then an even smaller amount of Terran units kills off all of your lurkers. I want you to appreciate what you just saw. A smallish amount of tank marine vessel killed all the lurkers. It's a very easily losable matchup. This is the moment where a lot of Zerg players just up and lose the game. Zerglings are good against Marines in small numbers and with good surrounds. I swear to you that this is the most tied into all the videos game that I will ever show you ever. I cannot believe this game exists because it's just the most perfect educational example in the whole world. But wait, because Hero versus Zero, or excuse me, Flash versus Zero that we're going to see in a second is also so fantastic. So, we've hit true mid-game now. Zerg is going to be defending with Defilers. Zerg has these bases up. Terran is going to be going crazy bio pressure. He's got a pair of starports producing. He's taking his third. All right. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Comes down here. Boom. Throws down one. Dropship going to sneak to the back, but it's not just going to get sent in. There is this setup force at the front that Jaedong has to pay attention to. Has to be very careful with his Scourge to have this ready. So this permits this drop to happen. Again, notice that this was not just a drop out of nowhere. It's a drop here as a force is moving up here that Jaedong has to pay attention to. It does die, but that's okay. Because Innovation's continuing to pressure. Jaedong's continuing to try to hold on, He's getting... I think he gets an Ultralisk Cavern somewhere around here at some point. Looks like he hasn't even got it yet. Alright, we're still at proper mid-game. Oh, there's the Plagues. Because Plagues are the anti-marine ability. Still just defense, plague, dark swarm, defense, 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 upgrade, defense, plague. So you heard me say that lurkers are not good attacking units. You heard me say defilers are not good attacking units. Unless you can get it right on an expansion. Often we see drops, but a simple, complete sneak-around counterattack is also good. But on the flip side, what's happening in the main base? Well, let me rewind just a little bit, because this was happening at the same time, so I can't show two things at once. Terran needs to attack, 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 attack. So Terran moves his vessels, moves his forces, moves these two dropships. Each of these is also full of bio, so there's quite a lot of bio here. And often there will be Scourge here. Innovation just sees that there's not any, so he just unloads right now. Emergency sees units, wants to plague it right now. This was ridiculously sloppy. But even so, big drop in the main base, deals lots of damage. Even loses the spawning pool. That really sucks, because Zerglings are really important units. I don't know if this Defiler Mound was that important to kill. The upgrades, though, are very, very big. These annoying Lurker Defilers are just never, ever, ever getting killed until the Science Vessels show up and irradiate them away. Terran's trying to expand. Terran's planting mines in order to get his expansions up. And now we're starting to get to the point where we're hitting true late game. Not because the spawning pool and Defiler Mound are getting rebuilt, but because Ultralisks are coming out. I hope you appreciate how long Zerg was in a defensive mode. Zerg has been defending for a long time. I think this is... maybe just emotionally, this is why I feel like this is such a weird matchup, is that Zerg so often is aggressive, attacking, harassing with Mutalisks, running every which way with Zerglings. But in this particular matchup, you just really do defend for a long-ass time. Things like this, these are not attacks. This is just trying to get into a good position. Trying to prevent little counterattacks. This is so annoying as Zerg. Ooh. So notice how Zerg has not really attacked for a long time. He's only done little teensy-ass counterattacks that are so effective. I actually think that Terran should not have ever even tried to take this. Terran should be trying to take this. So this game is nearing completion. But it's the most typical, ordinary-looking example of how this matchup functions, both at beginning, middle, and into late game. Back in Terran's base, just lots of barracks, lots of science vessels getting produced. On the Terran side of things, or excuse me, on the Zerg side of things, it's lots of defending. See, looking for angles, not just going to throw these in willy-nilly, just trying to set this drop up properly, using scans to look for weak points. Zerg sending teensy-tiny forces around, just being as annoying as possible. And then all of a sudden, look at the production tab, 6 Ultralisks getting produced. Very nice drop angle, in theory. There we go, there's the drop. You might say, why did Bogus leave the game? Well, look at the supply. Well, I mean, I know it says 158 to 0 right now, but Innovation can't get another base. Innovation's out of minerals here. He's out of minerals in his main base. Jaedong has basically defended Innovation to death. Zach. I'm going to exit this game. Nice. So I'm going to ask the question, what do variations on this look like? Again, Zerg and Terran build up. Very long phase 2 of the late early game, where Terran is trying to kill off the third as much as possible. Zerg's desperately trying to get a third and to stay alive until Defilers. Phase 3, we saw it go on for a long-ass time there. Lots of Ling, Lurker, Scourge, Defiler, defend, like a long time while getting more bases. And then, big pressure, big attacks, Ultralisks in the mid. Lots of bases. We're actually going to see some games get to that point. Flash versus zero, game 4. Boom. How can this look different? Wow, let us divine. I'd like to note for all of you beautiful people who are tuned in right now, Fun Day Monday reruns are happening right after the show. Woo! Fun Day Monday. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So, this Terran player is Flash, the best player in the world, know him by name. This top Zerg player is Hero. No, it's not. It's Zero. God almighty, I'm going to screw that up so much. This is Zero, the Zerg from Wungjin Stars. When it was still a team before it disbanded, he was considered the star Zerg on that team. Just an excellent player, a real treat to watch. And Flash is, of course, excellent. Flash is going to do a build order very similar to what we saw him do versus Hero in the ASL 4 finals just last weekend. So, this map is called Electric Circuit. We're not even going to look at the map in advance because I want to focus more on the broad strokes of what's happening here. Okay. What is this? Flash is building a factory. Now, if you look at a lot of analyses, both in StarCraft 2, StarCraft 1, even other RTS games like Age of Empires and Command & Conquer, there's a lot of analysis as to what's happening locally. Ah, yes. Terran can now get vultures, and vultures are good against Zerglings. And also, the factory will allow Starport to get wraiths. And look at how smart it is that Flash has walled himself in completely to permit him to build this factory right now. And all of these statements are fine. All of these statements are true. But I don't want you to forget about what's going to be happening 10 minutes from now. How is this going to converge back to the Phase 2, which is Terran pressuring with lots of bio, while Zerg desperately tries to get a third in Defilers. How is this going to transition into... How is this going to transition into Phase 3, the mid-game, where Terran is either committing to big bio with vessel play or mech? How is that transition going to happen? So let's think about this. Well, normally Phase 1 is Terran builds up. Normally it's a big build-up time. Terran is trying to get himself an extra expansion and that sort of thing. So Terran is kind of sacrificing that. Zerg is not. Zerg expanded. Zerg got a spawning pool, and Zerg even built a third hatchery at this little half expansion at the back door. It's not a full base, but it's a little bit of nice extra reward for a Zerg player. Okay. Again, local tactics. Lift the barracks to see if there's any queen here. Here comes the Vulture popping out. Here's the starport. Great. Harassing unit. Vulture. Harassing unit. The Wraith. Also, LOL, this drone got a kill on the constructing SCV at the starport. But, notice Flash says, dude, I sacrificed building up in Phase 1. I gotta get back to that. That's the anchoring idea in this matchup. And in all matchups. I gotta get more money. Vulture immediately moves out. It's not even gonna waste time on this drone. It's moving out, moving forward. Okay. Alright. What's going to be happening next? Add-on gets built. Ooh, what's this? More vultures, but also mines. Ooh, interesting. Flash is trying to do this glitching trick to force a vulture up into the high ground, but Zero's already more than prepared for it. And what's this that Zero's making? It's a Hydralisk Den. He's seen a starport. He has seen vultures. So he wants to make sure that he has Hydralisks, which, as we saw in the first Zerg vs. Terran core strategy video, Hydralisk's own Wraiths, Hydralisk's own vultures. So this is great. But once again, don't just think locally. Zerg still needs to answer the question of how he's going to get to Mutalisks, how he's going to get to Lurkers, and then Defilers, how he's going to get to a third base. So let's look at how few Hydralisks Zero builds. He is hardly veering off course. Just by the same token, I'm very appreciative of the fact that, yeah, Flash is getting a drop ship with this factory that's making all sorts of crazy vultures that for some reason aren't showing up on the construction menu. What happened to my construction menu? Why is nothing showing up? What the shit? Are you shitting me? Are we serious with this? Are we kidding me? Why is my production not showing? There we go. What? There we go. Woo! Yep, no, it's gone again! So if I open it up and then click? Okay. Okay. Woo! There we go. Now I can see it. I guess I gotta scroll in. Woo! 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 Even though Flash is doing this kind of interesting vulture with dropship play, and we're going to see whether it does do any damage, Flash hasn't forgotten that building up is the typical play, so he wants to make sure he's building up on two bases. Mines are popping down. Flash is not forgetting that it's very easy to just lose to Zerglings. This is one of the most losable matchups in the world. So yeah, he's thinking of ways that he can attack. But he's also protect. Look at how many of these mines are going down. This vulture used all the mines. This vulture used all his mines. This vulture used all his mines. Every single mine is used here defensively. Isn't that interesting to see in action? Most of the time, when players go for aggressive dropping plays, they think to themselves, I want to deal as much damage as possible. How do I do that? How do I do that? How do I do that? But what makes Flash a strong Terran to learn from is that he's always doing actions that allow him to return back to a typical Zerg vs. Terran play. So why an engineering bay right now? It's very easy to become obsessed with, I guess I could make tanks now. Oh yeah, Wraiths and Cloak, that seems cool, yeah. But why this? Because Phase 2 for Zerg is Mutalisks. Phase 2 for Zerg is lots of harassment. Phase 2 for Terran is lots of bio. He needs this engineering bay for upgrades and turrets. He's just peeling back to normal play. Look at how little Hero has done. Hero has built. God damn it, this is not Hero, this is Zero. I'm going to screw this up all game long. Zero builds one sunken colony here, one sunken colony here. How many Hydras has he built? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Full stop. No more Hydras. How much has this harassment done? Thus far, essentially nil. In terms of actual damage that this has done, Zero has not lost any drones. He's not lost units. But Zero did have to build Hydralisks. And as we learned, Hydralisks at this phase in the game kind of suck. But boy, oh boy, did this go poorly for Flash. He was unable to really deal any damage at all. He did not hurt Zerg in any regard. However, Terran is still getting to science vessels, is still getting marine upgrades, is still going to be getting an academy, which I think is going to be built down here. I think it actually gets built right there. But why Wraiths? Why Wraiths? Well, just to harass overlords, maybe, to mess with Zerg. This is kind of similar to the build that Flash did versus Hero and ASL. Except Flash went for Mutalisks instead of drops, and you can kind of see why. These Wraiths, or excuse me, Flash went for Wraiths instead of dropships, and you can kind of see why. Going dropship and then Wraith, Flash can't really do anything. So if we had to give a critique to what we think of this play out of Flash, we might say that we don't think it was very good, just due to the fact that it's arriving at sort of phase 2 without much pressure. It's getting science vessels very quickly, which is great. But it didn't really deny Zerg much at all. Cloaked Wraiths are, I guess, okay. But they're not, again, they're not really doing anything. Mutalisks destroy Wraiths when they get them up. And what's Zerg doing? Dude, Zerg's going right back to just taking a third base, because that's what Zergs are supposed to do. Cute little adjustment. Zerg's getting the Overlord speed upgrade to deal with Cloaked Wraiths. Everything else Zerg's doing is looking normal. Lurkers. Another hatchery. Upgrades. Starting with Carapace. Hey, look at that. After that funky-ass opening, where it was Vulture drop that had to be answered by Hydralisks. After all that, this is looking kind of like just your typical Zerg vs. Terran mid-game. Mutalisks are really bad against Irradiate, so essentially no harassment can happen here for the Zerg player. He killed off one dropship, but pretty benign at this point. Alright. Floating science vessel. On maps that have these ridges, it's common to just lift the science facility after you've researched Irradiate, just to be able to see if Mutalisks or any drops are coming. And you can defend it with the Irradiate. If you ever lose a science vessel to Mutalisks, you can immediately burst into tears and everyone will understand. I don't know what Mr. Tank's doing, dude. I can't explain this to you. So let's go ahead and stop at a little after 10:30. Let's take a look at the Terran base, right? Let's make an assessment. Right, we see some tanks, we see some bio, see some science vessels, we see a bunch of barracks, we see 2 engineering bays getting upgrades, we see a starport and a factory. Let's take a look at the Zerg base. We see a Zerg getting Hive with an upgrade. We see a bunch of hatcheries. We see Zerglings, we see Lurkers, we see Zerglings, we see a third base. Hey! This looks like the normal beginning of Zerg vs. Terran mid-game. What's the big difference? And don't think in terms of the literal, oh, you built vultures in a dropship. Normally you don't do that. Think of it in terms of the phases. 1, Terran builds up. 2, Terran pressures really, really hard, while Zerg desperately tries to secure a third. 3, Defiler, Lurker, defense for Zerg, big bioforce for Terran. Phase 2 for Terran was pretty much non-existent. Terran really didn't pressure anything at all. Terran has done basically jack all in Phase 2. What did Terran gain? Terran gained the ability to apply pressure at the start of the game and has a pretty beefy force with lots of science vessels when he is moving out. So weaker Phase 2, stronger Phase 1, stronger Phase 3 for Terran. Look at this, 3 science vessels. And Terran lost 1. Most of the time when you do this push out as Terran, you have 1 science vessel. So this is pretty potent. If he lost all those science vessels, again, it would be completely acceptable to just burst into tears as a Terran player. So, there's little bits of analysis that we can do, like, hey, Zerg has all these little counterattack paths that he can do stuff with. There's this big ring around here. The Lurkers are in the middle. Which way does Terran press towards? I don't want to talk about that too much. I'm going to talk more about the fact that Terran is going to be up against a very typical-looking Zerg player, and we're up against this kind of typical-looking Zerg mid-game, less some of the nuanced tactics. There's smaller things, such as the fact that Terran does not have Marine range yet, which is insanely late. Normally, it's like the second upgrade you get as Terran. So what is Zerg doing here? Yes, he's doing a big attack. But what Zerg's actually doing can always be understood through the next possible step. Zerg is trying to buy time for Defilers, and Zerg saw a couple of siege tanks that were just out and abandoned. And he thought, maybe I can kill off these siege tanks and delay the push. We looked at this in Core Strategy video Part 1, where tanks, marines, can be thwarted by these lurkers rushing up and just picking off the tanks. It's very easy for the marine medic to just walk away from the lurkers, so we can't reliably do that every time as the Zerg. But Zero's just going, hey, those look like some juicy tanks to me. Trying to get into position. These 3 tanks look mighty isolated. Zerglings run in first, absorb the tank fire. Yes, a lot of lings were lost, and those tanks were lost, but the bio backed up, and it's a relatively even exchange. That's what happens most of the time at very high levels, is it's a relatively even exchange. Defiler mound incoming. More delay tactics. You know what there's going to be? Burrow and unburrow. Burrow and unburrow. Here's the Nidus Canal. Whoopsie daisies. Zerg lost a few overlords. No big deal. That shit happens. Poor medics. They loved life so much. This little move here by Zero is only okay. Notice how all the Zerglings die, and not terribly many Marines died. You don't need a lot of Marines to stay alive to be super threatening and super scary, especially when you're producing Marines 5 at a time. Zergling for any opportunity to delay. Delay, delay, delay. So modern Zergs have kind of said to themselves, dude, why figure out how to delay an army to 13 minutes so I can get Defilers with consuming time when I could just rush for Defilers, man? There we go. Alright. So now we actually get the start of mid-game. Once the first Dark Swarm goes down, this is when alarm bells should go off in your head. Hey, it's mid-game. Let's appreciate, again, the fact that we're 14 minutes into a game. If we look at Terran's base, we have no idea how he opened. We happen to know because we literally watched it, but I don't know if Zerg opened up with Hydralisks to defend. It's marvelous to watch good players play because the farther you get in the game, the harder it is to even see how the hell they got there. Nice Canal coming out to be able to defend these different locations. You're going to hear that of the scan from Terran all game long. More expansions. Sunken colonies. More expansions. Upgrades. Upgrades. Defend, 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 defend. Let's watch the way that Terran pressures. Remember in those videos you heard me talk about how the Terran player marches forward, irradiates all sorts of goody goodness, wears this down, tries to misallocate defilers for Zerg? It's exactly what Flash is doing right here. Small, teensy counterattacks from Zerg. You heard me talk about those. You also heard me talk about how tanks are really good at killing those off. Hard to make big attacks here as Zerg, but as Terran sometimes you do have to pull back and defend, which is kind of what Flash is doing here. Most overlooked thing in the mid-game, setting up dropships as Terran. We're going to see some beautiful work there from Flash. Flash is also taking another expansion. How? How is he defending this? By being stupidly aggressive. He is constantly taking far forward sieged positions. Flash is not rallying here and staying here. He's rallying here and moving forward constantly. Because if Flash stays here, remember, one Dark Swarm, and that's game. So Flash scans this. Is there any Defiler? No, there is no Defiler. Oh my. And Defiler's all gone. Okay. You could retreat, but what a beautiful counterplay from Flash. She just continues to walk inward. And now he's targeting this. Science vessels floating forward. And this is a super annoying play that you can do as Terran. You irradiate your own science vessels because they don't take damage, and now the science vessels just bounce back and forth over this drone line, dealing tons of damage to it. This is why the Spore Colony is here. Now, while this is going on, this is tons of battling, but instinctively, because I'm the Zerg in this side of the matchup, I'm just obsessively glancing at the minimap. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Well, Flash is getting ready to take another expansion, but also, holy moly, Marines barreling down. Are there any drop ships here anywhere? Any drop ships? Do we see any drop ships on the minimap? Oh, thank God. Okay, no drops. No drops coming. All right, good. Some Zerglings are coming. Oh, that's frustrating. That's obnoxious. More Terran units coming forward. Trying not to just place themselves in front of Dark Swarm, but just standing barely outside of it. Now, if you're Zerg, you really don't have a fourth. This does not count as an expansion. Marines shooting at the base makes it not a base anymore. And now we see Flash with a comfortable third, getting a comfortable fourth, and Zerg only has a drone mining here. This is what good pressure looks like as Terran. And something Flash is just famous for. It's like pressure without ever putting yourself into a cross your fingers position. Flash darts forward, waits for the Dark Swarm, pulls back. Happens to be 2 Dark Swarms. Damn. Well, just keep pulling back, keep avoiding the Dark Swarm. Now, if you're Zerg, you're like, oh, thank God, I think I'm barely about to kill it. Oh, wait, no. Oh, shit. Oh, God. And there's still this force defending from counterattacks. There's not a lot of tanks that are being involved in this push anymore. It's just the mobility of the Marines, the support of the vessels. And these tanks are good at holding positions. Don't get me wrong, they're good at holding positions. Marines are not good at holding positions. They get plagued, they get dark swarmed, but they're great at attacking positions. Now here comes a real difficult judgment call. If I'm Terran in this position, I sometimes get a little bit, I don't know what it is, trigger happy, and I try to run past these dark swarms and kill off this Nidus Canal. Flash time and again shows that as long as you're just guaranteed dealing damage, you're doing great. You don't have to just constantly keep him down at 2 gases. You can keep him at 3, and that's okay. And if you even get more bases, it can sometimes be okay to just let Zerg get this 4th. So Flash is doing yet more pressuring. He was just jamming on one location. But Flash then goes, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and try to pressure somewhere else, now that it seems that not only is this looking more secure, but there's no real juicy target. There's no more base here. So Flash moves to this side. Sees a few units left over, and zooms on in. I want to stop here 18 minutes to highlight something essential. I've been talking about things from the Terran perspective. There were some questions in chat throughout the initial core strategy segment. Things like, what about this unit composition? What about going for like mass Hydra with Plague? What about that? What about Zerg building this type of unit or that type of unit? I want you to remember that Zerg barely stayed alive by the time he got to Defilers. And since Zerg's gotten Defilers, Terran's been non-stop attacking. So let us evaluate what Zerg has right now. Zerg has, in terms of gas units, he has 1 Defiler, 2 Defiler. In the main base, it looks like nothing but eggs, nothing but production. Okay. Zerg also has 3 Lurkers and a Defiler here. And has a Lurker and a Defiler here. And then some Zerglings. That's it. So Zerg has, let's see, this is 300 gas. This is another 300. This is another 300. Has about 1,000 gas worth of units. Oh my god. Zerg has, like, no dudes. This is why this matchup is really hard at this point in the game. Zerg has 2 Defilers here, 1 Defiler here, 1 Defiler here. Zerg has, like, no Defilers. Zerg has 1 Lurker here. I don't think I see any here. And 3 Defilers, or 3 Lurkers here. Zerg has not even stabilized. Zerg has built an Ultralisk Cavern, but has basically been upgrading and waiting. Upgrading and waiting. Upgrading and waiting. And this is not, oh my god, Flash is so good, I can't believe Zerg is in that bad of a position. This is pretty damn normal if you're Zerg. You heard me count all those gas-based units out? You know what I didn't see any of? Scourge. I saw no Scourge, man. That's why these vessels are getting to fly around. This is what real power Terran aggression looks like. Well, looks like there was a Dark Swarm over there. You know what? I'm gonna go kill this expansion. You heard that scan go off. Where was the scan? Let's look. Right there at the front. Scans are basically at all the points where Terran wants to attack. Where was that next scan that went down? Oh yeah, just checking to see if there's any potential to drop here. Now, for as much as it's impressive that Flash has been able to do so much damage and that Zero has been able to hold on for so long, appreciate the fact that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gas Zerg who also has snuck in 2 mineral bases. So technically it's 7 base, more realistically it's 5 base because we only really count gases as true proper bases. Minerals are sort of just bonus. Zero has done an incredible job securing lots of expansions while this is going on. Zerg is also pretty broke. Has a lot of leftover minerals, but just does not have that much gas to do stuff. So where did Flash drop? Flash walked his entire ass army over here to secure these dropships safe passage to this top expansion. The most overlooked thing that Terrans do, don't protect these dropships hard enough. Don't set up these dropships hard enough. So we're still in mid-game. We're still in pretty much pure proper mid-game. And Terran is now up against, I think, the really beautiful threat that Zerg has set up. This is very common in 2017. Zergs do these really nice, small investment, high damage output Defiler Ling Lurker drops. Hero did an amazing win versus Flash in ASL 4 by doing exactly this. So the Plague on these science vessels means that a single Hydralisk can begin to clean up. Desperation. Tries to throw down one Dark Swarm, gets one more Plague. There's literally Lings in the main base here. Or literally Marines in the main base here. That's one of those high APM reaction things where you just you hear an attack in your base and you just tweak and throw down the lurker. Dropship sneaking its way to this side. Look at this pressure. Drop here. Straggling set of units here that will probably get cleaned up, but might not. Big ass pressure here. Do appreciate the fact that Terran is a little bit of aggression away from losing. If Zerg stabilizes enough, Terran just loses almost immediately. Bio loses to most late-game Zerg compositions. The instant a single location doesn't have a Defiler at it, Zerg dies. Lurkers are out 6 Carapace. Now, if any of you have ever watched the OSL finals between Iris and GG Play, this is what the last game looked like. It looked like a Zerg player getting hammered, getting hammered, getting hammered, just being beaten to death in all locations, and then suddenly, Terran seemed to have no forces in the middle of the map. Flash, though, just continues to drop, continues to pressure, continues to batter. Appreciate how long it took for Zerg to go from Defiler, Ling, Lurker defense to being able to get any reasonable amount of other units. And now all of a sudden, this is a tricky spot for Terran. A lot of Zergs lose here. Excuse me, a lot of Terrans just abruptly lose here, because a lot of Terrans are not properly allocating against multi-pronged Zerg attacks. This is what's nice about these tanks here. This is what's nice about all this exquisitely set up defense. And still more drops sneaking in here to this corner. Ultras are really good against Marines, man. These Marines are 3-3. In very, very late game, Terrans tend to start building up lots of tanks at all the expansions. Because you saw how good tanks were against Defilers in these types of situations. And Hero basically just peters out after a while. I think he leaves right around here-ish, roughly. And I think it's possible... Whoops. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Go to the end of the game, please. I think it's possible that maybe Hero could have, like, held on and stabilized. Because, I mean, he did have a lot of bases here. It's not Hero, it's Zero, damn it. But, like, not a lot of drones here. Not a lot of drones here. Not a lot of drones here, but, like, still kind of okay, but... Part of me looked at this loss and was like, I think Hero just got stressed out, man. I think he just got tired, dude. I think that after seeing this army march forward, Zero was like, man, fuck this game, man. Not again. I'm getting the hell out of here. So this particular match, I think, was fun to watch, because Flash is amazing. It's fun to watch, because Zero's amazing. But in terms of our education and our understanding of how Zerg vs. Terran works, we got the chance to see a very weird Terran opening, and essentially low-pressure Phase 2 from Terran, with Zerg being able to establish himself freely. And then everything flowed back into the mid-game that we're familiar with. What I want to do now is take a look at a Zerg vs. Terran between Flash and Zero on the same map. This still is Electric Circuit. But in this game, we're going to see a completely different opening from these interaction between these players. And Flash is going to transition into Mech. Let's make sure that we see how all these varying phases of Zerg vs. Terran interact with each other, so that way we can see this strong pull back to this normal look. And you know what? You know what? I'm proud of this graphic. I'm going to actually remove this. Let's take a look at this graphic again. Let's go to my Let's Learn StarCraft. Here's all the videos that I prepared for today. Boom. Bam. Love this graphic. Love this one. Thanks for making this, Gabe. Phase 1 is early game build-up. Gotta have build-up. Can't ignore it. Phase 2 is the late early game where Zerg tries to take a third and desperately tries to defend while Terran is denying it. Phase 3 is that Zerg defending on 3 base with Defiler, and we see how long of a phase that is, how long that takes. Phase 4, we've just now seen 2 games of SK Terran, one with Innovation versus Jadong, and the most recent one of Flash vs. Zero, and now we're going to look at the Mech switch. And we want to see how Phase 2 and 3 of this bio-pressure will emerge, and how it will still bleed in to this Mech. Alright, cool. Let's go back to Brood War. Let's put up my amazing overlay graphic. Watch this. Blam! Cool. Alright. Now, we've seen a barracks into factory from Flash. And when this barracks is done, it's not going to be a factory. Instead, it's just going to be a straight-up wall-off with a supply depot into an expand. As fast as an expansion as you can get after a barracks. Super-duper ultra-safe. This is completely tight to Zerglings. Out of Zero, we see the relatively common 3-hatch, except because on this map there is a sneaky little backdoor base. He takes that. What's next for Flash? Well, we have seen before players go for a very, very fast set of barracks in order to build up Marines. But I actually have to remove this statistics thing to show you that Flash is going for a very ultra-fast academy. This is an unusually fast academy in this matchup. What will Flash do with it? Oh, wow. What's this? This is a... Oh, God. Alt-U. This is a fast factory. Huh. This is kind of funky. This is, again, a really weird-looking build out of Flash, who rushed for an academy and is now rushing for a factory thereafter. I wonder what he will do. Alright, what's going to be Flash? Flash finished his academy up here. Flash has done this before, where he gets an academy just to be able to build a ComSat station. Just to be able to get a super-duper fast detection, just in case there's something weird and funky like lurkers. And an armory. Holy cow. Starport, barracks, no vulture getting built, armory getting constructed. Now, let me briefly flip on over to the Zero side of things and say, what the hell's Zero doing? Hey, we got a lair. Ooh, we got a spire. We got 3 hatch. Hey, is there Zergling speed getting researched at all? Oh, my god, thanks. Good job, Hero. Good job. It's not Hero. It's Zero. Good lord. What the hell's Flash doing? What's going on? Pull back into your brains. Phase 1, Terran buildup. Phase 2, Terran pressure really, really hard while Zerg tries to hold on with Ling, Muta, Lurker. Phase 3, Defiler defense, Terran having a rounded out army. Not only are we trying to ask locally what the hell's happening now, we want to ask how it steps into the next thing. What Flash is doing is he's doing a type of pressure that on most maps you can't even do, but on this one, you have this nice opportunity with this wall off to where you can cut a ton of defenses early because you're completely protected from Zerglings. And while this is going on, Flash is going to get a very early armory so that he can get very early Valkyries. He's going to be going for 3 barracks to be able to pressure, and he's going to support it with Valkyries. As we saw in the previous game between Flash and Zero, Flash went for heavy pressure in Phase 1 instead of building up, which meant he couldn't pressure much in Phase 2, but still poured back into a typical-looking Phase 3. Here, Flash is going for very heavy Phase 2 pressure. Now, Zero is doing something very interesting. He's double expanding to these corners, which is not uncommon if you think your opponent is going to be passive a little bit. This is just straight up a huge risk. If your opponent's going to be passive, you often say, one of these will die, and that's fine. All right. So this is what I mean by this matchup can contain many, many units that can be very, very confusing. A lot of times people will see these Valkyries and they'll be like, what the hell? What the hell? What? I don't understand anything anymore. But again, think of it as I am just trying to pressure really hard in Phase 2. Terran still has to go back to tanks, Marines, and science vessels, and then choose between committing to bio or committing to Mech. And there's some interesting choices that are now faced by our Zerg hero. Zerg kinda needs some defense. Zerg does have this Hydralisk Den done, has not yet started Lurker aspect. Has this up, has thrown down a slew of bases. I think this is a risk or a misread. This double flip side base, this is mostly enabled by having these extra minerals from this 3rd base. But again, if you think your opponent's going to be sufficiently passive, cool. And, now this is really frightening pressure. You can't even hope to harass this Marine medic because the Valkyries will deal stupid damage to your Mutalisk patch. So Zero just abandons that, devotes his time to this top side. Lurker aspect is being started as well. And look at this. This is the typical flow of a Zerg vs. Terran that has gone great for Terran. In this particular circumstance, Terran has caught Zerg off guard and is going to freely destroy this. Zerg's kind of gone ham taking extra bases, which I really honestly do not recommend. I really, really do not. But Zerg, once again, is doing the same thing that Zergs always do. Desperately try to hold on via counter-harassment, going into this main base. Scourger here to pick off any Valkyrie. Boom. Huge damage getting dealt. What's going on in the middle of the map? The Valkyries are returning home. Very smart move by Zero. He's attacking the main base. The Valkyries are trying to pull back. They were initially here to enable this troop of Marines. Alright, Zero fucked up, man. He had free Valkyries right there. Valkyries are not counters to Mutalisk as much as they are slowly whittle downers of the Mutalisks. Like, all these Mutalisks will be able to heal back up. The third for Zerg has been completely deleted, but Zero has managed to successfully secure a third up here and is even building lurkers. Ah, those Scourge are so stupid! Alright. More Valkyries getting built from Flash. Flash is kind of committing to being super aggressive still. Or, in other words, Flash is delaying his Phase 3. Flash is saying, nope, I'm just focused on denying third bases. And it makes sense if you look at Flash's viewpoints. Flash has not even scouted this top left area where you see that there's an expansion. Flash is currently saying, well, shit, if you're not taking a third, I don't have to do anything different. I see no reason why I should take a third. And at this point, Flash will start to get suspicious and say, wait, do you have a base up here? Oh, dude, there's no way you actually proper double oh, no. And I think we see all the units just turn and start moving up there almost immediately. Yeah. So this is where if you're Flash, you go, whoops, whoopsie doopsie daisies. You know what? I'm gonna get vultures with mines. I'm gonna do all that good stuff. That seems like a positive play. All right, here's the scan and pressure. We saw that lurkers are very good defensively, but Marine Medic can annihilate lurkers that are out in the open. Who's going to win this? Well, I sort of gave you a clue. The scan ran out. I actually think that's one of the big reasons why this didn't turn out horrifically. That lurker got a few free pot shots off. Shoo! Woo! Alright. Yeah! Woo! So here's where I want to stress something for all you people who are aspiring to open bio and go into Mech. Mech is a very powerful composition. We saw in that video of Tank Vulture versus Ultralisk that it's hard to fight cost-effectively against a Mech army. But in order to do so, you need to set it up properly. This armory and this armory will be able to get very fast double upgrades for Terran. But more importantly, factories take about a minute each to build, and then another minute to get the add-ons, and then another 30 seconds before units pop out of them. It's a long-ass time. So, the Bioforce has to be out on the map. It has to be actually aggressive. It has to be shoving back and pushing back and controlling space. So that way the Zerg army doesn't actually get so big. If we look at the Zerg force, the Zerg is now getting back to its normal look. Zerg can't know if the Terran player is going for Mech or going for Bio right now. When all the barracks are floating out into the middle of the map, it's kind of a big sign. This is kind of a big signal, man. The biggest change that Zergs need to make in this position is to note, hey, instead of focusing so much on gas to get defilers and lurkers and scourge to fend off the bio, I need to get a lot of drones so I can mine enough minerals. Because we see how great Zerglings are. Look at the mines being planted. And amazingly enough, we're getting pretty close to the late game phase. So, my very favorite graphic in the whole world, that's now covered up by my other graphic, it's not about it's this time for early game, and this time for late early, and this time for 3, and this time for 4. It depends on what's happening in the game. And when a switch to Mech happens, you often are catapulted immediately into late game. If Terran is sticking with biopressure, you almost have a super long mid-game. Vultures suck doing anything except planting mines and scouting and being annoying. And look at Flash. He's just finding yet more opportunities to be annoying. Why is this so important? Because you have to be aggressive if you are Terran. Always. The Zerg can't get into easy positions where he can waltz forward, plant down a Dark Swarm, and kill you. And so during these mech transitions, the Vultures are essential to plant mines, to maintain control over as much space as humanly possible, and the Marines can still just get kills. This is a very impressive play to find as Terran in this moment, and it's very easy to ignore the possibility of even being able to pull this off. There's a mine that is glitching out like crazy somewhere. You heard me talk about how good mines are against Ling, Defiler, Lurker? Well, there you have it. And in the meantime, more Vultures moving up here to see if there's any way to apply pressure, but way more importantly, just planting mines. If you look back in Zerg's base, Zerg still doesn't have the energy upgrade for whatever the unit this is, the Defiler Mound. Still getting Plague. Still getting upgrades here. Just started the Ultralisk Cavern. Zerg, for all intents and purposes, is kind of roughly in the same mid-game that he was at before. He's getting his 4th because this one is super dead. Sometimes you'll see Zergs do this, and I find it very questionable. It really depends on the map. Zergs will take their Mutalisks, get a Greater Spire, and turn them into Guardians. But in a match where you've seen your opponent rush for Valkyries, it could be argued that this is a good idea, because you know that Terran doesn't have science vessels. He's been building Valkyries. But even so, Valkyries will eventually kill Guardians, so I was kind of like really surprised when Zero built Guardians and then just like had this, oh shit, Valkyries sort of reaction to this. Like, what, this is inexplicable to me. This is sort of like free money thrown away. Alright. What's a Zerg to do? Well, this game was played in 2012. This was a practice series of matches between Zero and Flash. And you'll note that Flash is still primarily vulturing. He's now beginning to get some more tanks and Goliaths and beefy things. In the main base, where once were a whole bunch of barracks, we now see a bunch of factories. But appreciate how long this transition was for Flash. So many Vultures were built, so that so many mines could be planted. Still, little Ling, Lurker, Defiler counterattacks are stupidly annoying, but this army is much better equipped to face Ling, Lurker, Defiler than a pile of Marines that could just be plagued and killed. Now the big differences in Zerg's play is going to be much more focus and emphasis on masses of units instead of good plagues, good defilers, and things like this. Overlords filled with Zerglings dropping on top. Plague doesn't do that much because there tends not to be packed clumps of Terran units as there is when there's a Bioforce. Mines hurting Flash a little more than they're helping, but I think that the solution should be build more mines, which we're going to see Flash do in a moment. So there's a huge difference between how Mech works in the late game versus how Bio works in the late game. Paradoxically, once you can get a lot of bases as Mech, you should just keep mass expanding. Losing a lot of SCVs might hurt, but it also doesn't really do anything to you. Zerg's top left base is in actually an amazing position. It has this Nidus Canal, and then all of a sudden, no matter where you are, you're in good shape. Also, another nice move from Zero, this Nidus Canal, is... where does this connect to? He actually may have just built this, but sometimes Zergs skip out on this Nidus Canal. You must build this. Even if you have this one, you gotta get this second one to ensure that you can sprint to whatever base needs protection. Now, on this map, there's this weird back door that can be knocked open, this building that's blocking it. Boom. There's a whole bunch of buildings stacked on top of each other. Therefore, siege tanks are really good at knocking this down. And now you have an attack path into this back door. So what makes this game increasingly crazy is the fact that Zero has super close access to this critical expansion via these top left bases, and Zero has relatively close access to these top bases from drops, but also from walking. Vultures swinging in. And I feel like this game cannot highlight enough how, if you're Terran, it's actually okay to lose a lot of SCVs as long as you're good at rebuilding them and you keep on expanding. For a long time, Terrans would get into this position and start to say, this is why you can't do late game mech switches. Look at how many SCVs I'm losing. If you count, there's like 50 to 100 SCVs that die almost every single game when a good Zerg is against a good mech player. But the mech just keeps expanding. Oh, by the way, Ultralists are really bad against tanks. Just keep that one in mind. And yep, Lurkers are good against SCVs, but tanks are really good against everything. Flash keeps on expanding. You're gonna cross-map base versus me? No problem. Now, let me just pause and say something important to you. At this point in time, we're watching the rest of this map for entertainment value, okay? We don't need to get super obsessed about nitty-gritty details in terms of our core learning. I just love this game, okay? So I wanted to show this game. We've been going 45 minutes over, but I don't give a shit. This game is so good. So I want to just stop and emphasize, if you're new to StarCraft and you're watching this game for the first time, don't worry about learning anything new for the rest of the game. Really don't. Don't. Dude, don't. The first part, the core strategy video, is the most essential. The first 3 games are critical to understand how many rivers flow into the same ocean, how many different openings and different mid-games still tighten back to those same 2 convergence points. And right here, we're just going to watch some dope shit, okay? Let's appreciate how beautiful a game Brood War is. And I love this word. I can't remember who used this word. I think it was David Kim who actually used this word allocation. That Zerg vs. Terran is a big allocation problem. That Terran is now trying to figure out where to place tanks defensively, where to place tanks offensively, where to place mines defensively. And similarly, on the Zerg side of things, it's about where to allocate your defilers, where to allocate your lurkers, and so on and so forth. This is what makes this matchup hard, and what makes it cool, too. Yeah, that's right. David Kim used the word allocation. I find that really impressive. Immediately thereafter, he ruined the balance of my race. David Kim! David Kim! No, man, David's great. All right. So, slow pressure. Why do I love to say that Lurkers and Defilers are not good attacking units? Because look at how slow the progress was here. In the meantime, Terran has begun to jam this top side. This Spire is now under threat. Lurkerling continues to be produced. Yeah, this sucks to lose a bunch of SCVs. Flash is going to lift. He's not even going to move it. So Zerg manages to find this and is going to kill this side off. Flash has worked his way into this main base. These overlords are coming in to maybe find a good drop angle. Wants to avoid the Goliaths, because though Goliaths are not the best against Mutalisks, Goliaths are unbelievable against overlords. Zerglings from Zero, curling onto the top side. So now, Flash has had this base found out, this base found out, this command center is really embarrassed. He's like, I swear to God, I was trying to be an expansion. You didn't catch me in the middle of nowhere doing nothing. Flash still has this expansion. Flash can easily retake these particular positions just by virtue of the fact that the siege tanks blow up the defilers instantly through simple target firing. That was shown briefly in one video and cannot be understated. Tanks just right-clicking on a defiler says, I might lose all these tanks now in a Dark Swarm, but the push is done. Zerg can go no further. Also, tanks are really good against Ultralisks, whether it's sieged or unsieged. But when you have... Are these things... Do these have anything in them? Nope. Big drop of Ultralisks over at this expansion here. And once again, this is the spot that made people in 2008, 9, 10 say you can't go mech switch versus Zerg, man. But Flash is actually just re-landing this and building SCVs, re-landing this, building SCVs, planting some mines here, rebuilding SCVs, and going in for the attack. By the way, did you know that mines are triggered by larvae? Isn't that interesting? Watch this defiler. Gets picked up into the Overlord because Zero knows how fragile defilers are in the face of tanks. Ultralisk defiler on the ground. Just not that much of a threat. We might ask ourselves the question, what about transitioning to Mutalisks? 900 gas in the bank, just not that much. Just really not that much. I've slowed time down for the last 30 seconds to 1 minute of time. Here's an Ultralisk underneath the Dark Swarm. There's no more Ultralisks underneath the Dark Swarm. Terran has retaken this. Has built 5 SCVs. Has retaken this, has built 5 SCVs. Uh-oh. Those Ultralisks that previously were being dropped at that bottom right side, they had to help versus the tanks, and Flash is like, great, I'm going to re-expand. This is really, this hurts your brain if you are used to SK Terran style, or if you lived in 2007 and played Brood War, because you just don't do this shit as Terran. You just don't keep expanding like this as Terran. Technically, yes, Zerg could send Zerglings here. Technically, yes, they could do that. But this is why I have been stressing so much about why pressure is super important. And Terran has one of the cheapest evacuation tools in the game. You just lift the command center, and you don't even have to look at what the SCVs are doing. You just lift them, dude. And then all the SCVs evacuate themselves. Lurkers are re-remembering to kill off this base. Flash just continues to build SCVs, continues to mine. Sup, Ultras? Good to see ya. Thanks for playing StarCraft. Now, the funny thing about being Terran in this game is that Zerg does not really have any other bases to take. Zerg's taken his bases. I guess this one? But really, Zerg needs to not just kill these, but expand to these locations. It's just an attention issue. Zerg is being split so many ways. The game's close as fuck, though. Don't be confused. It's 100 supply to 100 supply. And Terran has this top base, this right base, and I guess this bottom left base. I just looked at what the name of these two players is. So I know that this is Flash, and I know that this is Zero, but they're playing under Odkod and Odns 11. Odkod. Oh man, I love it. What a great, what a deliberate name. Odkod Odns 11. I think that these represent Korean characters and Korean names that I do not see here with my little ASCII alphabet, but so this has been going on. Still more attempts from Zerg to re-expand here. I think that this is a little overdue. Oh, God. And as time goes on, we're starting to say to ourselves, damn, I actually think Zero, excuse me. Oh my gosh, I think Zero has actually held this off, man. But tanks are coming 5 at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Vultures and or Goliaths are coming 5 at a time. And yet more special tactics en route. Goodbye, Zerglings. And once again, if you're Hero, you're not in the game. If you're Zero, you're going, oh my god, again, are you kidding me? And then once again, Flash is like, yeah, this is a good place to expand. This is safe. Yeah, this is safe. I think Zerg is also a little under attacking this. I think that Zerg just lost this. As in lost track of it. Still close, 100 supply to 100 supply. Zerg has been so desperate to get any minerals out of this damn expansion. Little mine welcoming party to the Nidus Canal. See, Plague's just not the best. I really think that this is hurting the shit out of Zero. Just the fact that those are in there. Like, seriously, Flash just keeps expanding. He sends a few vultures, kills off the Zerglings that are there, and then just retakes it. The Zerglings are coming up here to try to attack this, which is great. But this is being out-multitasked. That's what this is. This is out-multitasking, man. Like, I'm telling you, like, this is a constant near-death experience for Zero in regards to this expansion. Tanks are really good against Dark Swarm, dude. Yep, the Dark Swarm went down. All the rest of the units died. Alright, this is Zerg's base now. Zerg finally killed this. Zerg hasn't killed this. Alright. Did you see that Ultralisk drop and pop? Oh, man. Alright. And then finally Zero's like, oh my god, oh. And you might be like, okay, well, Zero has to win now, right? Well, yeah, lane counterattacks are happening, and they're really annoying. So let's just plant a few more mines here. Let's leave the vultures there. And let's celebrate the fact that we actually have finally killed off this base. Command center. Not mining there. Remember this command center that used to live down here in the bottom left corner? It's, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. No, it's floating up to its new home. Flash actually broke through here. Mech units, when they get into huge numbers, are so intimidating to deal with. And Mech, especially if you play Terran vs. Protoss or Terran vs. Terran, tends to be a very passive army. But you can be very, very active and split your army up against a Zerg player. Yep, there we go. Alright, we got a base. Cool, cool. Hell yeah. Excellent. And finally, the map sort of reverts back to the way it should look. Oh, look at this. Infested Command Center. Holy shit, he actually got Infested Command Centers this game? Oh my god, it's another Infested Command Center. Awesome. So if a command center is below 750 health, you can send a queen at it, and it will become an infested command center that can then produce infested Terrans, which truly are broken, which are just, like, unfair. Each does 500 damage. For comparison, a sieged tank does 70 damage. And that's like super crazy. Oh, look, it's a scouting infested command center. So the tanks are just barreling down this super tight alley, which of course is awful, awful news for these Ultralisks. Ling Hydra attempted defense. Look at this. Look at this. I think I emphasized to you that it's good to keep expanding if you're meching. Flash is just like, yeah, nope. No risk here. It's not like he can produce 500 damage infested Terrans at the building touching my building. Are they full? Seriously, this is ridiculous. But make no mistake, this game's close, dude. These tanks are caught out. Via excellent kiting, maximizes the damage. But this is like the last mining base, kind of. I mean, technically this is here, but this is like one infested Terran away from having no units at it. 82 supply to 102 supply. Flash is mined out of all these bases. Somehow still has a crap load of SCVs. Oh my god. Well, that didn't work well, did it? If this had infested Terrans in it, man, that would be so sick. Oh my gosh, he forces the infested lift off. Game's still close. Ultras are trying to be dropped, but mech units are just so good. This is exactly why people started to go, hey, mech late game, yeah, nice. More Dark Swarm. More Ling Ultra. Infested Command Center. Too bad. A single parasite goes down on one of these. Which one got parasited? I don't know. And at the end of the day, it's the war of attrition. The Ling Ultra drop actually kills off this expansion, which is amazing. Flash just needed to lift. Now long-range mining, now sending another command center, the one that used to be up here, over to here. Dude, bases are just not having a good time if you are Zero. Or I guess if you're Hero, either. I mean, Hero's not in this game, but I sure have brought him up a lot. 84 supply to 47 supply. Siege tanks, great unit. Oh, well, the Infested Command Center has landed back again. So wow, there has been so much pressure down at the bottom side. One small, well-timed Ling drop is enough. I don't think Zero even knows about this expansion, though. And says GG. Literally cannot defend these bottom bases. Completely empty. What a game. What a game. And you know what's amazing? That wasn't even like some epic tournament match. It was just like a game they played of 6. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop, and then I'm going to turn on that episode of Fun Day Monday. We're going to do a rerun of Fun Day Monday. And the real big takeaways that I want you to glean from today's episode is the idea that no matter how much weirdness happens in those first, let's just call it the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, think of it as, when are these players getting the chance to build up? When is the Terran pressuring to be able to deny that Zerg third? And how is the Zerg establishing control of his third? How is the mid-game going to pan out, where there's that big Defiler, Scourge, Lurker defense versus Vessel, Bio, and any other pressure that Terran has? And then how's this late game going to look? Is it going to be an SK Terran, or is it going to be a Mech Terran? And then there's all the tactics that are so involved. In future episodes of Zerg vs. Terran, we're certainly going to do some openings next week. But I also want to spend a full episode talking about Phase 2, which is how the hell do you stay alive as Zerg versus all the variety of Terran pressure? Because it does deserve a big chunk of attention. And how do you fight against these big mech armies? That does deserve attention. We're going to be looking at those in future episodes, and for now, I'm going to sign off. It's Fun Day Monday time. Woo!